Hi there, this is Srikanth Dasari from Dasari Tuts. So, in this lesson, we are going to learn the real use of a nested member function, which we have seen in the last lesson. Okay, so the real use of nested member functions comes when you are defining member functions in the private section. Okay, so the basic rule of thumb in object-oriented programming is that so you cannot access the private data outside the class. So in order to call or in order to invoke those member functions, the only way we can do is using the concept of nested member functions, which is in turn calling a member function within another member function. Okay, so you can call that the private member function definition or function, which is defined inside the private section in another public member function. Okay, so let us look that in more detail with an example program. So all the basic stuff I am typing here, hash include. So I was trying, so using namespace std. So using namespace std. Okay. So here I'm taking another the same class definition which we have taken in the last lesson, the class foo. So we're taking a very simple example here. The class foo, which consists of the private section, a single variable as my int. So int my int here. Okay. So here, as we have, as I said, I am defining a member function here inside the private section itself. Okay. So let me say that void set data. So void set data. So void set data just does nothing but setting our private data member here. Okay. Or else let's do it in a different way, universal way. I'm just putting the declaration of the member function inside the class here. Okay, so let's write the definitions outside the class, which is the very most common way done in C++. Okay, so this they just declare the member functions inside the class and they write the definitions outside the class. Okay, so this, which is a good convention followed universally by C++ programmers. Okay, so in the public section, so I'm taking another member function. Let me say that as void put data or something like that. So void put data. Okay, so we are done with our class declarations inside our class. Now we need to define the member functions here. Okay, so so return type followed by the class name, scope resolution operator, set data, set data. Okay, and now I'm just setting the data to 0, my variable to 0. In the same way, I'm writing the defining the member function put data. So void foo put data. So void foo put data. So let's say cout. Excuse me. /t. So my-int. I'm just putting a message here instead of directly putting the variable. So my-int is equal to my-int. Okay. So I've just taken two member functions, one inside the private section, private member function. Put a comment here for better understanding. So private member function. Okay. So private member function, and we have another member function which is defined under the public section here. Okay. So public member function. So public member function, and we have a single data member here. Okay, so we are done with our definition. So I'm putting another comment here, definition of member function. So outside the class. Okay, so definitions of member functions outside the class is the correct comment here. Okay, so now we have our main function. I'm just writing the main function to complete the program. So main, let's say returns 0. And for that, let's put this contemporary c dot get equivalent of get c, etc. Okay, so let me create a variable or a object for our foo class here. Okay, so I have created an object for foo class, And here, okay. So here, if you using the reference of this object, if you need to call the member function, so if you observe in the IntelliSense here, it just points out only the put data function here. Okay, so because the only member function we can access outside the class is put data. Okay, so that's because it's defined under the public section. So now what happens to this member function, which is defined under the private section here? Okay, so now our concept of nested member functions comes into picture here. Okay, so if you want to access the private member function, the only way you can do is you can make a call inside another member function, obviously, which is a member function defined under the public section. Okay, so now I'm making the call of that set data function inside our put data function, which is a public member function. So set data, I'm just calling the member function inside this section, inside the put data function, which is a public member function. So now I'm calling the put data function using the reference of this object f1 here. Okay, so we're done. If you run the program, everything goes well, you need to expect the output as 0 here. Okay, so that's what we have got here. I'm just increasing the font size, less than 36 here. Okay, so here we have mind is equal to 0. That's what the data we have set using our set data function, which is a private member function here. Okay, so whatever you wanted, if you want, you can set it to -1. It works well for you. The output is displayed as -1 here. Okay, so to summarize once again, so we have taken a class foo here, which consists of a private section, data member inside a private section, and also a member function. Okay, so we have a public section which consists of a single member function, put data. So for convenience or presentation purpose, we have just declared the objects, or we have just declared the definitions of those member functions inside the class in the private section and public section respectively. So here we have defined the member functions outside the class, and we have set data and put data respectively. So the set data function, which is defined as under the private section of the class, which is not accessible outside the class definition or outside inside the main. So the only way we can do that is by explicitly calling. Okay, so here you can say, put a comment here, nested member function. So when you call a member function inside another member function, which defines, which is obvious that we are making the concept of nested member functions here. Okay, so the only way, the main use of making the nested member function calls is to access the member functions, whatever the private member functions defined under the private section, making them accessible through in the main, or else executing that part of the code is only done through this putting them or explicitly calling them inside the put data, which is a public member function, which is defined under the public section. Okay, so coming back to the main, here we have created an object for our class foo, and we have just called the member function put data, so which in turn calls the set data. The control automatically jumps to the definition part, and which in turn calls the set data function, which is defined. It's also defined outside. So control back jumps back to here and sets the value of mind to -1, and comes back to the put data. And inside the put data function, we have just displaying the value using the cout statement. Run the program once again. So you get the output. Okay, so as -1. So this is the basic stuff about so how to make use of nested member functions in case when you have member functions defined under the private section. So see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.